state of agriculture in Nepal, which is very close to our hearts, most Indians. Dr. Aruna Palki is an agriculture economist, come monitoring and evaluation expert with more than 15 years of rich experience in Nepal agriculture development sector. She graduated with masters and PhD from the Tokyo University of Agriculture in International Biobusiness Studies. Since then, she worked on various projects funded by different donor organizations like the World Bank, ADB, and USAID in Nepal. She had devoted herself to diverse research projects, program management, planning, coordination, data management, data analysis, monitoring, and evaluation in agriculture based projects in Nepal. Currently, she is working as project team lead at the Institute for Integrated Development Studies, Nepal, for the projects collaborated with the International Food Policy Research Institute, which is IFRI. Today's topic, she will be discussing a very threadbare state of agriculture in Nepal. Let me also say a few words about agriculture, because agriculture is the lifeblood of not only in India and Nepal but many South Asian countries, and one can develop the imagination of agriculture, how it contributes. And agriculture, to my mind, is not only necessity for keeping you healthy and alive. It goes much beyond this, and the dependence on agriculture or any other key supplies on any other country has its own ramification. Many countries have burnt their fingers. Anything else can wait, but not agriculture. So and farmers position has to be strengthened. There are many things which can be done. Of course, we have done a lot, but we have come miles, but we have still miles to go on agriculture and Indian agriculture, because in Nepal, for instance, over 60% of workforce is engaged in agriculture. It gives about GDP of 23%. So agriculture is very important, not only because it draws a lot of resources, both human resources and other natural resources like land and water and so on and so forth. So with these few words, I would request Dr. Aruna Palki to enlighten us with her presentation on agriculture in Nepal. Over to Dr. Aruna.
But then, let's go to the next slide. And first of all, I would like to give a small introduction about Nepal. Nepal is a small country in between two big nations, India and China. As you can see here, Nepal's population is just 30 million, the 2020 as per the 2023 census, and we have a 7 province. It is divided into 7 provinces, and it has a diversity in ecology as well as the climatic diversity, though it's a very small country. Let's go to another slide, please. As for the ecological regions, our country is divided into 3 different regions. The mountain regions, which occupies 35% of total land, and agriculture in the mountain region is basically the livestock-based agriculture. In the mountain regions, only 2% of land is cultivable, rest is not. And the middle regions, which is called the hilly regions of Nepal, it occupies around 42% of our total land, and 35% of our land is cultivable in this region. So basically, in the mid-hill regions, the crop and livestock-based agriculture is practiced here. And the lower belt, which is like connected to the Indian border, it's called the Tarai regions. And basically, in Tarai region, it's a cereal crop-based production, and it covers around 23% of our total land, and of which 63% of our land is cultivable. So next slide, please. And so as we see from the previous slide, that though it's a small country, there is a big diversity in the agriculture production and the production systems, which is like basically defined by the climatic and the geographical diversity of the country. Even in today's world, out of total population, the around 62% of labor force are engaged in agriculture sector in Nepal, and we can see the trend from since 2011 to 2021 from this graph. Next slide, please. Here in this graph, I'm trying to show you the share of agriculture in GDP. And from agriculture, we can see that it has been continuously decreasing, although there's like 62% of the labor force are engaged in agriculture, but still the contribution is around 23 to 24% in 2021, 2022. Let's go to another slide, please. In this slide, you can see the share of other agriculture subsector in GDP. Livestock has a very small share in GDP, which is just 6.2%, and forestry very smaller than that, 1.68%, and the fishery is less than 1%. Okay, let's go to another slide, please. So I tried to look into our South Asian country about the GDP contribution of agriculture in 2022. If we look at here, you can see Nepal has the largest share of agriculture in GDP compared to our other Asian countries like Thailand, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and India. Shall we go to the next one, please? So in Nepal, we grow different varieties of the crops, and because of the diversity, the climatic condition, we grow different varieties, crop, fruits, and vegetables. Like for example, in cereals, we grow rice, maize, wheat, millet, buckwheat, and barley. And we also grow some cash crop like the oilseed potato, sugarcane, jute, and cotton. We also grow the pulses like the lentil, chickpea, pigeon pea, black gram, grass gram, horse gram, soybean, and other crops like fruits, vegetables, large cardamom, ginger, garlic, turmeric, dry chili, honey, fish, mushroom. Like so, though it's very small, though we have a very small land area, like arable land area, there are very different varieties of the crops are grown in Nepal. And the next slide, please. However, if you see the productivity, like here I'm trying to show you the productivity of the major food crops that are grown in Nepal. For example, the rice. Rice is our major crop. Like rice is a staple crop in Nepal. We love rice and we love to eat rice. So rice occupies the largest area, and the productivity is it's hovering around 3.5 to 4, in between 3.4 to 5 metric ton per hectare. And in recent years, we can see there is a slight decline in the productivity. That is because of there is a climatic problem, the harvesting time. There was a rainfall in the harvesting time, which has triggered the reduction in the productivity in recent years. The next slide, please. And I try to look into the productivity of other countries, how they are performing, like our neighboring countries. If you see here, like Nepal's productivity it's relatively comparatively lower than its neighboring countries. And similarly, the productivity of maize is also very low when we compare to our neighbor countries. Next slide, please. Also, here you can see the productivity of wheat. The last one was maize, sorry. And but if you see here, because Thailand does not produce wheat, and Bhutan also they don't produce wheat, so we can see a little bit higher productivity. But comparatively, the productivity of wheat 2.99 is very less compared to other countries. Next slide, please. Here, I'm trying to talk about the agriculture status of the agriculture inputs. The current status of agriculture in agriculture sector, our agriculture is lacking the high demand of seed, because it cannot fulfill the demand of seed that the farmers had, because this in this graph we can see that the demand is around 100,000 metric ton of a cereal seed, of demand of a cereal seed. However, the government we can only supply nearly 40,000 metric tons. So there's a huge gap of the for the availability of seed in Nepal. That is basically for the cereal crops. And our formal sector, which is supplying only the 17% of the cereal seed in Nepal. Next slide, please. If you look into the seed replacement ratio, it is around 27 or 28%. Next slide, please. So if you look here, you can see the performance of agriculture in terms of agricultural GDP, AGDP growth rate and the trend. So you can see how our agricultural growth rate is performing in regards to the total and GDP growth rates. Next slide, please. That is 2019-20. The slight decrease is because of the COVID, as we all know. Now at the fertilizer sector, in the fertilizer sector, we don't produce any fertilizer, especially the chemical. We completely depend on the fertilizer that is being imported from the third world countries and also the India. So in fertilizer sector also, like there is a demand of 700,000 metric ton of fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, but the government is only able to fulfill around 400,000 metric ton of a chemical fertilizer in Nepal. And if you see the fertilizer use, Nepal used to be one of the lowest fertilizer user in Nepal. But however, the demand of fertilizer is increasing every year. So that the major fertilizer two government companies are supplying the fertilizer in Nepal, AICL and the Salt Trading Corporation, which are still not being able to fulfill the demand of the farmers for chemical fertilizer. Next slide, please. So here this graph give us some ideas like the annual sale of chemical fertilizer, and the recent years there is a sharp decline in the chemical fertilizer sale. That is because of the COVID-19. Government was unable to import the chemical fertilizer, and so the sale has been sharply declined in 2021, 2019 and 2020. Next slide, please. So if you look into the irrigation sector, Nepal has a huge potential for irrigation, because we have lots of water resources in Nepal. However, out of the total cultivable land, 18% of the land is only potentially irrigable because of the land structure of the country, and of which only 42% of the land is irrigated in Nepal for now. And of the total water potential, we are able to use the 8% of the country's water, only 8% of the country's water potential. And however, the government is just trying to support the farmers through the small scale irrigation in different locations, especially in the mid-hill regions and also in the Tarai regions. Okay, next slide, please. Here also, I was trying to give you some information regarding the irrigation, like government and the international organization like EB. They are trying to support the farmers through the solar irrigation, and some other irrigation projects are still going on in Nepal to support the farmers in different provinces. Next slide, please. And farm mechanization. When we talk about the farm mechanization in Nepal, like Nepal is a small country, like the geographical structure has, and the fragmented land and the small pieces of land, which has like, I mean, causing some problem as for use of this farm machinery in Nepal. Less than 8% of only the less than 8% farmers use the large farm machinery, and 46% of farmers use farm machinery in Tarai region. Tarai region is basically the slope, the plain area where farmers are using some, and like, but less than half of the person farmers use some in machine in the Tarai region. Whereas if you look at the mountain and the hill regions, only 8% of the farms are using the in some kind of a farm machines of the technology. Mm. But in the recent days, like due to the migration, lots of like male are migrating out of the country, and so the farmers or the women are compelled to use some, at least some farm machinery, and they are trying to use it nowadays. And government is also making some effort, like agriculture development strategy. Can you go to the next slide, please? Has established some CHS centers in Tarai, in some of the provinces of the Tarai, which is trying to like support the farmers through providing some of the agricultural machineries, and also this Prime Minister Agri Mechanizing Project, and also trying to support the farmers and through like providing the agricultural machinery to the farmers. Next slide, please. And if we look to the budget allocation, although like there is a 62% of the farmers are like the labor force are engaged in agriculture, we can see that the amount of budget allocated to agriculture sector is completely very low in Nepal. It used to be less than 2% in 2015, 16, but in recently into 2022 and 23, government has raised it to 3.5% of the total budget. Next slide, please. And when we look into the share of the budget expense in agriculture sector, and so and you can see here the graph is going downwards. So out of the total expenditure, the share of the expense in agriculture sector is also like just around 2 to 2.5%. Next slide, please. So because of the productivity is low, and there is a lack of like the basic requirement of the input seed and fertilizer, Nepal is importing the large amount of food. And then like here in this slide, you can see the trade status of Nepal, like how much food crop Nepal is importing. And recently, like in 2021 and 2022, the import of the trade deficit has slightly declined. That is because like India has like imposed some export ban in the major cereals and some food crops or food varieties. That's why the import also has decreased. Let's go to the another slide, please. This is also like I have recently talked about this. This is in the billion rupees, and like how much trade deficit Nepal is facing every year. Let's go to the another slide, please. Especially in year 2022 and 2023. Now, if you see the quantity of the rice imported, like it was like since 2015 and 15, it is increasing every year. The trend of import of the rice is increasing every year. And when we reach into 2021, 2022, it has like sharply declined. That is because of the ban on export of the rice imposed by India. That is shown in this graph. Next slide, please. So this is the amount, actual amount, like the how much we are importing every year, and not every year, but this is the data of 2023. How much metric tons in actual amount, and also the rupees. Like in the year 2021-2022, we imported 47 billion rupees of rice, and in 22-23, it has decreased to 36 billion rupees of rice in Nepal. Next slide, please. So when we look into the agriculture sector in Nepal, although we are facing many problems of the basically we are still struggling with the basic requirement of the seed and fertilizer. There still exists some opportunity to increase the productivity and grow the agriculture sector in Nepal. The recent change on the system, federal system, country's transformation to federal system provide the opportunity at the different federal level to improve the agriculture sector at local level. There is a diversity in terms of the topography and the climatic condition, which provide the opportunity for the production of different varieties of the crops and vegetables in Nepal, vegetable as well as the fruits in Nepal. We still have a potential to increase the yield, because the yield is still not that high, and the policy, the government policy is always in favor of to support the farmers in Nepal. There's a rapid expansion of high value crops and commodities in Nepal, and also the availability of international market also poses the opportunity in Nepal. Next slide, please. For the way forward, I suggest that we should invest more on the input availability, specifically we need to be the more location specific and support the farmers to increase the availability and accessibility of the input, basically the seed and fertilizer, and irrigation and water management. We have a huge source of irrigation in Nepal. We just need the management of the irrigation and water that is available in Nepal. Similarly, the technological adoption encourages farmers use of the technology and develop the technology which are like basically the women friendly technology, and also the repairment of the technology that has been introduced. Next slide, please. And extension service, like strengthening the agricultural extension service in Nepal, and improve the access to market and infrastructure. Crop diversification is another opportunity that we have in Nepal. And the research and development, improving invest in the research and development sector of Nepal, increase the access to credit and finance to the farmers, promote and invest in climate resilient agriculture, because the changing climate change are impacting our farmers. So we need to promote and invest in the climate resilience agriculture, the value chain development, and the youth. Basically, the youth, new generation are going away from agriculture. Agriculture is no more attracting the youth. That's why there is a need to attract the youth in agriculture sector, and develop the policy or the programs which can involve the youth in agriculture sector. And government policy and support is always there, and partnership and collaboration with different organizations, both in international and national organizations, to support the agriculture sector of Nepal. Yes, thank you. That's all I have prepared for today.
So thank you, Dr. Aruna. It was a very rich presentation. You gave broad contours of the agriculture sector in Nepal, and you also highlighted what are the issue in agriculture and what is the way forward. You dissected the data by subsector wise also, the uh, the husbandry, and then the crop, and what are the way out, and what is the also. So this was very insightful and foresighted you give for this. Now, before we open the floor to our audience, may I request Professor Charan if he has any question to ask? Professor Charan? It seems there is some let me ask you, Dr. Aruna, two, three things.
Yes, please.
Uh, the first thing which I noticed, there is a significant gap between the demand and supply of seed for cereal crop. So how do you meet this challenge? And then there is an issue of solar empowered pumps. How do you have And my third question important about when you talk of the food security, it involves three things: the availability of the food, affordability, and access. So, how your country have handled these, and four is the custom hiring center. What is your business model for custom hiring center? So, I would like to hear you, and then we'll open the floor to the able to hear us. Vivek, can you see the connectivity? Is there any issue? Hello?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but I am not able to hear Dr. Aruna. Are you able to hear? I am not very sure whether he heard me. She heard me.
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Aruna, you able.
Yeah, I have. Yes. Thank you for your question.
So
Yes,
would you like
as you
to?
say, there's a huge, yes, there's a huge demand. I mean, the gap in the demand of basically that is for the cereal crops. And mm, like farmers like in mid-hill regions, they save their own seed, like they save their own seed for the production. And if you go to the Tarai region, like there are some informal sectors like supplying, and also the private sector which are supplying the seed for the farmers. And obviously it's the informal sector which are supplying cereal seed to the farmers. And for the another question about the solar power, that is like it is a small project that the different donor agencies are implementing in Nepal. So
Okay.
uh, um, so I don't have like sort of detailed information in that regard, but they are trying to support, for example, International Water Management Institute is trying to support the farmers through the solar irrigation system in some of the Tarai and the hill regions, hilly districts of Nepal. And you were talking about the just one. Another one was the custom hiring center, right? The
Yes.
custom hiring center is it's a center which provide the different agricultural machinery. Like they can hire the agricultural machinery from the custom hiring center. So it's like a kind of a hiring center which provide these machinery to the farmers.
So it's
When if
like on pay per use basis, like Uberization, we hire
Yes,
Uber taxi.
yes, it's
Is
like
that the model?
yes, it is like that. So
Okay.
government has that like established those centers, and they can hire some of the um, agricultural machinery if they need some.
Okay.
Hope I answered your question.
Right. And the last one about the availability, affordability, and access to the food in your country.
Okay. In that case, like Nepal income now the poverty has reduced very sharply in Nepal. Now the poverty, like it used to be like for 30%. Now it has decreased to 17% if we look into the multi-dimensional poverty index. but there are some remote districts like where still the poverty index is very high. Basically, like the different government is also providing food, and also like some of the international organizations like WFP is also providing food in those remote district where there is a lack of food in for certain time of period. Otherwise, the other districts, I can see that like people are mm, um, like government is like importing the large amount of food for the people, so that's how they are providing food. And they are like
Okay.
okay, I mean the uh, mm, remittance is support the remittance farmers and the poor household are getting, has increased the purchasing power, especially for the food security which is like supported in the food security status in Nepal.
Very good. So, Professor Charan, able to hear us?
Yes, I am. I am so happy
Yeah,
that
so yes, yes, very, very nice to see you, Professor Charan. I know how busy you are, but still, your commitment to agriculture is very encouraging and inspiring. And now I'm sure you must be having one or two questions. So please,
yes.
and then we'll open the floor to.
Firstly, I must thank Professor Aruna to have agreed to have to talk to us about Nepal. We had met her a couple of months back, and she agreed. So I want to thank her. And Professor Aruna, we are not very sure. At least I'm not very sure about the agriculture sector in Nepal, and so learning from you in that sense. I had a couple of questions. Now, maybe you have answered them in your presentation, but I was probably not able to listen. So if you have answered, you don't have to. My question was that in India, we have been very successful with our Food Security Act, where through the fair price shops, we have been distributing to a very large segment of our society, including the ones which are below the poverty line, food. And of course, we have not been able to give them protein-rich diet, but basic food of millets, rice, and wheat, we are able to provide. So my question was, given that the poverty levels in Nepal are also reasonably high, does the government have any such program in Nepal? The second issue that, because this gave us lots of food security and also help people come out of poverty, as well as in COVID not slip into poverty. So is there any such program there? The second thing was that in India, we were able to identify certain crops which we thought are very essential, and therefore we gave a support in terms of minimum support price to basic cereals like rice and wheat. Is there any such program in Nepal where something like the fair price shops, like the Food Corporation of India that we have distributes this, and then the government procures it at some minimum support price, and then is able to distribute across the country, especially the vulnerable sections? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Dr. Sir. Yes, there is there is a system like supporting those vulnerable groups, especially like in the far western regions. By the support of WFP, like government is distributing the food, or especially the rice, because there is a high demand for rice, and in the mountain or the high hill district, they cannot grow the rice, so. They distribute rice in those districts. Yes, we have that system, and as you said, like the minimum support price, and yes, it has a similar. We follow the similar trend. Like there is a trend of like minimum support price for rice and wheat in Nepal, and government. The problem is like we produce more of the coarse rice, not the fine rice. So the government is like has like announced the minimum support price to the farmers, so that like they don't have to like sell. They might not be abused by those traders. Yes, it is like that.
Okay.
If can I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
Professor, in our country, there has been a trend of commercialization of agriculture, as well as on one hand, with commercialization of agriculture, there have been advantages, and there have been some fears of exploitation and disadvantages. Is something like that happening even in Nepal, or do you have any research on that?
I think like commercialization of vegetable for the vegetable production in mid hills and the Tarai region, it is happening, but not in the large scale for the cereal crops. But if you look at the vegetable production, it is happening. It is happening in mid hill regions. And the government is also supporting, and not only government is there is a high demand of vegetables, those are grown in the mid hill regions, that's why it is happening nowadays.
Okay. Should we open the floor? Now, I think Mr. Kedar and Dinisha is asking question. Kedar, Mr. Kedar, you can ask yourself. Then we switch to Dinisha, Dr. Dinisha. Perhaps she wants to know what is the percentage of marginal and small farmers in Nepal.
I exactly forget the number.
Yeah,
I think I have to check it in that.
Ajay, you are done.
I think it's
So,
around 60% of our farmers hold the less than 0.01 hectare of land. So these are the
mhm.
so
Now
they
my request, my request to our participants is there is no need to tell what you have done. Only if you can ask the question, that will be very useful. Straightway to the point. So, in case any other participant or our viewer wants to ask, please come straight to the point. Which question they want to ask? Because I find Professor S.B. Yadav is also having some comment, and he wants to know the latest agriculture development and role of change, significance of credit in Nepal. This is one question. Then there is another, Dr. Mrityunjay. He's only, no, he's not asking, only giving his email. And then there is a question, government policies are good. Dr. Kedar is asking, uh, government policies in Nepal are good. There is an adequate water and land. Then if everything is in place, why has agriculture production of stable food has been falling for years? That is the question. Would you like to answer, Dr. Aruna?
Yes. That is because we are lacking the seed and fertilizer. That is the major problem in Nepal. I showed you the data, there is a high demand. The demand like has not been fulfilled for the seed, and also the dependency of fertilizer in like import. That is the major reason. And another reason is like the land is fragmenting every year. We have a small size of a land, and because of our cultural practice like this, the land keep on fragmenting. That is the major reasons, that the major three reasons, like we are unable to grow in agriculture as expected.
There is another question by Mr. Kedar. There was a news item in Nepal which claimed, based on recent census data, that over 60% of people in Gandaki province have difficulty in ensuring one meal a day. Is it true? Or any comment on this, Dr. Aruna,
In
on
Gandaki,
Gandaki province?
I'm not sure about this because I think it's the Karnali province where there are more poverty, more prevalence of poverty in the Karnali, the far western mountain or the hilly district, which has like high poverty prevalence of poverty rate because there is a hard to grow the food there. The climate and the geographical structure made them um, cannot grow a lot of food in there. I don't know about this Gandaki province. I'm not sure about that. But
Okay.
if you see the multi-dimension poverty index, overall, the poverty index has increased degrees. In Gandaki province, I think it is around 27%, not
Okay.
60%.
Okay. Now, one is asking whether there is a young generation interest in agriculture in
As I said,
Nepal.
yeah, I also said in my presentation, no, people like your generation are not interested in agriculture. So now it's like we need to bring the policy or the like some strategy so that we can attract our new generation towards agriculture. And that is another
Okay.
problem, that emerging problem in Nepal.
So how you would attract them, the young generation, to be in agriculture unless you make it very profitable?
Yeah, that is the big question. Maybe, no, I don't know. Maybe some mm, organic production or like commercialize the small scale farmers, basically the livestock and vegetable parts and make it profitable. But cereal crops, it's hard.
Okay. Now, there is another question by Mr. Rajesh Kumar. He is asking what is the credit problem in agriculture in Nepal?
Credit?
Is there any credit problem being faced by farmers in Nepal so far
Yeah,
agriculture sector?
yes, because the interest rate is basically very high for because they don't go to the formal sector for credit, and those informal sector who are providing credit, they take on a high interest rate. And if they go to the formal one, the process is very like tedious for them because most of the farmers, they are not so much educated, so like they don't want to go this long process of getting credit from the formal sector, so they go to the informal sector. And informal sector, like that is like everywhere the similar one, because of the high interest rate, it is like increase their what do you say, yeah, they have to pay the large amount as interest.
Okay, no, just for my understanding, what will be the interest on agriculture credit in Nepal by commercial banks or agriculture or rural, regional rural banks, and compare it with the private money lender? What will be the order of the rate of interest in two scenarios?
I think the commercial bank, they are providing 6%. I think it's a 6%. Government has a mandatory
Okay.
rule for that, so they are giving in 6%. But the problem is, it is not going to the small farmers who really need the
Because
credits.
of collateral and other issues
Yeah,
and their
exactly.
education level. I can
Yeah.
understand.
Mm.
And rough, what is the average rate of interest being charged by the private money lenders?
That is very high, maybe 12%, 15%.
Okay. Now there is another question. One Mr. SN Singh is asking, is there any crop diversification study in Nepal? And then another question by Mr. Prinoy, and they say India has banned the export of onion and rice, so this will have negative impact on agriculture in Nepal, as Nepal import huge amount of agriculture goods from India. So how can we solve this problem? So these are the
Uh,
two questions.
Okay, thank you. I think crop but diversification, there are lots of research that has been done in crop diversification. That is basically in the hilly regions, like where a crop can be diversified. If you search in the Google, like, you can find many research like
Okay.
for the crop diversification. Regarding the ban of the vegetable and potato, yeah, that obviously there will be the impact in Nepal. The price is already high of the onion in Nepal. And for potato, I don't know. Still, we have to see because it's been just 1 or 2 days. It's been banned, right? So we import a large amount of potato from India, and it goes to the big hotels and big restaurants. And the demand, let's see, within 1 month, how it comes, because I have been doing research and trying to do this, like how the band is effective in Nepal. And when you like banded the price of rice go also went up, mm, but now it's fine. But the import obviously will decrease, but not has not affected that much. Obviously, the poor, very poor farmers, the very poor household will be affected from this. Otherwise, those middle class, I don't think they will have a much impact. It will
Right,
impact to the very, very poor, like poor households.
right.
For example, those
So,
labor like
sure. So, Dr. Aruna, I think you have covered a lot of uh, width and the depth. Now, there is one last question by Mr. Fahed. What are the current issue in agriculture productivity in Nepal? This is the last question, and thereafter we'll just move on. And this question you can answer, and that is the last question on agriculture productivity.
uh, you mean the productivity issue and productivity, right?
Right, issues in productivity.
Productivity, as I say, the question, the main, the research center are unable to develop the variety of the seed that the farmers are demanding. So, like if you go to the Tarai region, there is a demand of different variety of seed, and if you go to the hilly region, there is a demand of different variety of seed for rice, because there are some traditional variety of rice which can only be grown in the high hill regions. There are different variety of rice which can, like a hybrid rice that can be grown in the lower belt of in Nepal, like the adjoining district in India. So our problem is we are unable to provide the seed that as per the requirement of the farmers and the location. And the main problem is because the every like if you just travel 10 to 15 kilometers, the climate is different and the geographical structure is different. So even for the research center, they need the large amount of money for the research, and even the climate change is also impacting on that. So lack of resources for the research center for providing the required variety of seed, and another is obviously I said the fertilizer. Fertilizer is one of the biggest issue that is happening in Nepal.
Okay,
Hope you got
and
my.
yeah, now there is one question after the last question, so and that is the last, and then one Mr. Karthikeyan is trying to ask what are the steps taken to increase cold storages in the government, and what are the steps for cold storage, because that is an issue, and as you know, agriculture commodities have a very small and short uh, uh, shelf life, so that assumes a lot of importance. Cold is. So your views on
Um,
that?
I think there are some coal store being established in Nepal. There are a number of like the different projects are also supporting on that. But the problem is like coal store. Sometimes it's the operating the coal store, the operation cost, maintenance of the operation cost by the farmers or the cooperatives who are like trying to run this is one of the major issues in here, because there is not like for year round they don't have enough supply for the cold store. Mm, mm, and it cost the like operation cost becomes higher for the farmers because they need to pay. For example, if they take some amount of the potato in the cold store, obviously like they have to pay extra, and the cost become higher. And when we try to sell in the market, like they had to compete with the Indian produce, and because there's a large amount of import from India in the cheaper rate. So farmers cannot compete with that, and then the cold store operating cost becomes higher for farmers. That is one major issue here in Nepal.
So thank you. Though there are few questions, but I have to call it a day is because time is not available with us. So Dr. Aruna Palki, it was an excellent presentation, masterful indeed. And as all good things in life come to an end, and today's your presentation was no exception, I must congratulate on behalf of EGROW Foundation, on behalf of our CEO, Professor Charan Singh, and on my own behalf. Thanks. It was very enlightening and forward looking. And we also learned a lot, and I'm sure many of our participants got a lot of insights, and they felt they are now better off by in terms of the deepening of our understanding on agriculture. This was very good presentation, and so with these few words, let me give you thank you once again for everything and accepting our request to make a presentation. There may be a few announcement which Professor Charan Singh, if his connectivity is intact, he may like to make some last few two or three small announcement. Over to Professor Charan Singh.
So first of all, let me thank you, Dr. Vishandass, for chairing the session and conducting it so beautifully. You yourself are an agriculture expert, and therefore the discussion was with your chairing the session. I also must thank Dr. Aruna to have agreed to have come and delivered the talk and brightened us, enlightened us on the Nepal's agriculture front. Really interesting discussion. The important announcement that I would like to make is, firstly, we have the presentation tomorrow. Recording will be available on our website by about noon. So if anyone wants to use this presentation for classroom or any other purpose, most welcome. So the other announcement is, next week we have Professor Robert Stavins from Harvard University, Kennedy School. He is speaking to us about understanding financial markets. He is going to be speaking to us on climate and growth. So the seminar, because he's joining us at 7 p.m. from Boston. So p.m. Request you to adjust your timings. We will send you an invite, obviously. The last announcement I would like to make, we are running some courses for students of economics across online, across all spectrum. So we are offering courses of all types: macroeconomics, Indian economics, financial markets, IBC. So we would request you to take advantage of this online service which we are providing. This is in the spirit of expanding economic literacy. Just 1 hour every day in the evening from 7:30 to 8:30, and the charges are very nominal. And we also waive off the charges in case somebody wants to do it at lower. We waive off the charges. So my request to all of you is, if you can spread the word that EGROW is doing economic literacy, and we are charging a little amount so that people are serious. If we offer free, then we found that people are not serious. That's why a nominal amount is being charged. So if you can spread the word, we'll be really happy. Next Monday, our 5-day course, which means 5 hours course, every evening 1 hour, we are doing understanding financial markets. And the people who teach in this course have been senior officers either in SEBI or RBI, that sort of thing, or are teaching at JNU or Delhi University. So such high caliber people speaking, I would request you to please take advantage of this economic literacy program that we have started. So let me once again, to conclude, thank Dr. Vishandass, Dr. Aruna, and thank the participants for enriching the discussion. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to hosting you next Friday with Professor Robert from Kennedy School, Harvard University. Thank you.
Thank you so much.